Okay, so hello, my name is Stacey Anne Bagdi and I'm the curator at Headstone Manor Museum in the London Borough of Harrow. And I'm here today via my webcam at my house with the internationally renowned artist Jane McAdam Freud. And both Jane and I are isolating at our own houses during this period of lockdown. Jane is currently exhibiting her work at Headstone Manor Museum. Her exhibition, The Intelligent Instinct, is sadly behind closed doors at the moment. So we thought we'd take this opportunity to have a chat with Jane and do a Q&A session so we can get to know her a bit more and about her exhibition and share that with our audiences. So we have asked a few members of the public to send in their questions. So we've got about 10 questions to ask Jane, and Jane's got some slides and some images to share with us. So before we start, I'll just say hello to Jane. And Jane, how are you today?
Hello, Stacey.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, is the quality of sound okay? How do I sound? Is it a bit?
You sound lovely.
Okay.
So should we start with the first question? If I ask a question, then you can show us your slide after. So one of the first questions that was sent in to us was, has your great-grandfather's work influenced your art? And if so, how?
Yeah, well, first, I find it extremely uncanny that Sigmund Freud was really into the uncanny. Today we're doing recording is the 6th of May, and he was born on the 6th of May. And I didn't decide to have this interview on the 6th of May. In fact, we changed the date for some reason. And you changed the date. Know when he was born.
No.
And we ended up having doing this recording on the 6th of May, his birthday. So he was born in 1856 in Chibor, in the Czech Republic, where I also have a studio. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to illustrate my talk, because I think it is so much more interesting to understand images. If you see them, it's really hard to picture them. So I'm going to show works from the Headstone Manor Museum while I'm speaking about the works. Okay, so the exhibition is called The Intelligent Instinct, and it's on, as you said, at the Headstone Manor Museum. So, okay, fire away with your questions.
So the first question is, how has your great-grandfather's work influenced your art? And if it has, how?
Well, it has. It's inevitable. So he's my great-grandfather. He was born in 1856. Today, the day we are speaking, on the 6th of May, as I said earlier. And I mean, this is a recorded interview, so it's the date that we record this interview, which I find extraordinary. I mean, he's influenced my work so much so that I have studios here in the Czech Republic, and I come here regularly and work and I can see Sigmund Freud's house from my studios, which I find totally inspiring. And I think the other way he has influenced my work is that I work with psychoanalytic concepts. I mean, they sometimes overlap with philosophical and societal commentary, but without being political. I mean, I don't like to be too didactic. I'd rather observe without coming down on either side. Next question.
Next question. Yeah, so next question is, what is your interpretation of art?
I just want to come back to the first question, which I forgot, a very important part about why I'm influenced with Sigmund Freud. This image here is an image of one of the pairings at the Headstone Manor Museum exhibition called Kind, and it's I think I put it in because Sigmund Freud was also interested in archaeology, which I find fascinating. He said he read more about archaeology than he did psychology, I mean, remembering that psychoanalysis wasn't invented at that time, he invented it. But I put this in to honour his great interest in archaeology. I'm sorry, Stacey, can you ask that next question again?
Yeah, sure. So our next question, which was sent in to us, is what is your interpretation of art?
Well, I think my interpretation of art lies in what I make. You know, you can find it there. After all, art is akin to the sensory and cerebral rather than the verbal and explanatory. So I put in this image called Harmony in Blue because I think that's where I find my own harmony in making art. So that is what my interpretation is, dealing with facts in a harmonious way. As I said, I don't like to come down on either side. I like to observe, and when I find a sort of harmony in an image or an object that I'm making, I stop.
That's lovely. So the next question we had is, who are your biggest artistic influences, if you had to pick a few?
Oh dear, yeah, lots and lots. I think I'd say the male conceptualists like Marcel Duchamp, and in fact this piece is it's a piece from a pairing with my object, the one in front, the male shoe with the beard, and then the female shoe from the museum's collection. It's inspired by Marcel Duchamp's Mona Lisa, LHOQ. It's where he painted a moustache on the Mona Lisa and took it off again and then signed it, so thereby appropriating the image of the Mona Lisa for himself. And I think when we paired these two, I really thought of Duchamp, who I would say was one of my biggest artistic influences, but along with John Baldessari, American conceptual artists, and the great female artists, of course, like Louise Bourgeois and Louise Nevelson. Louise Nevelson being the American great female sculptor, and Louise Bourgeois, our, I want to say English, but she might have other origin genetically. So yeah, male and female.
Lovely. The next question we had is, do you support the local community of arts in Harrow? And if so, how?
Oh yeah. Since I've had studios in Harrow since 1999, I've done so many things. I mean, both in the private sector and in the with the local arts organisations. So early on, I did annual workshops for the council. I partook in the open studio events that one of the societies does. I taught at both John Lyons School and Harrow School, the public school, where I was artist in residence for 2 years between 2015 and 2017. I was also secretary to the chair of a Harrow Arts organisation, where Claire McDermott and myself and others converted a room into what we named the gallery, where many artists exhibited. I've exhibited my works both in the gallery and other local group shows and had solo shows too in Harrow. I've also given talks for the arts community, well, most recently, a few months ago, at the Harrow Arts Centre, where I spoke about this exhibition, The Intelligent Instinct. Yeah, next question.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, we've had a lot of artists come into contact with us since your exhibition, after seeing it at Headstone Manor previously a few years ago. So that's quite exciting that you were able to exhibit at Headstone Manor for the second time. So our next question is, under what genre do you classify your art?
I'm not sure. It's constantly evolving. It's currently between conceptual sculpture and site-specific installation, but certainly for this exhibition, I'd say site-specific, as I've paired my works. You know, the works I made from objects I found locally in Harrow, like on the street in Skips, and I paired those with objects at museum, you know, part of their collection, as you can see here in this slide. So the Hamilton's brushes with a work that features brushes on the left. So very much site specific, I'd say, at the moment.
That's fantastic. Our next question is a bit more but similar to what you've just answered, but why did you choose to exhibit this year at Headstone Manor?
You know, I just love some of the installations of normal domestic objects found at the museum. For example, these foodstuffs in a cupboard. I think that this was one of the first things I saw. I just thought it was fantastic. A larder with, you know, I mean, some recognisable, some unrecognisable packages of food. I just thought it was fantastic. I don't know. I can't say why this really struck me. And I put a couple of my uncanny objects, which are sort of in dialogue with each other, alongside this installation at the museum of foods in the cupboard, which were sort of in dialogue with me, calling me. I liked them so much. I liked this display. I liked everything about it, the shelving, the black and white, everything. Just each object, the way the old packaging becomes so, I don't know, so much more interesting in retrospect. I suppose it's like art. Dead artists are more seen than the living, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you and I were both curating this exhibition, we kind of found nooks and crannies and that kind of called out to you for different sculptures, and we changed a few of things around, and I really think their building itself kind of spoke to you in different ways as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, I was so excited. Do you remember when we went around and I was telling you that my last exhibition was in 2006 at the museum, and how I felt like I was just desperate to go back there. I felt like it's a real pull towards the, I don't know, the barn, when I realised the barn was now only for corporate events. First, I was a bit shocked and wondered what to do. And then when I saw what you've done with the museum there, it was fantastic. Yeah, really, I really felt homesick for that place. I mean, love it.
So next question is a bit more related to the current situation that we are all facing across the world. How are you personally coping during this pandemic, and have you created any art in particular, either in your studio, that has been inspired by the current situation?
Well, Stacey, I like being alone. I mean, I'm a social person, and I do like other people. But I love my solitude, and I'm enjoying my solitude. I'm enjoying being locked in. It's very, it's opening up for me time which was rushed has now slowed down, and I find that in itself very creative. I've made sort of all sorts of works about the situation in a way, like this piece, I See You Salivating. It was just looking at a meal, thinking how having a meal in lockdown is different to having a meal when you have the rhythm of society and the stresses that brings. A time for a meal is a wonderful thing. My glasses, they only have one arm, which I quite like in a way, but they fell into the meal because they only have one arm. But I thought about the way that that meal looked as though it was looking at me, you know, and in this time of the unknown, unseen enemy, I thought that, you know, it seemed to be to me a work about the invisible object and to have somehow ingesting the invisible enemy, you know, and then becoming ill, of course. But it looks a bit like when you half close your eyes as well. I thought it looked like a big ear on the side, maybe that slab of cheese in a sort of profile in a way or something. But it didn't really matter about that. The fact that it was looking at us like we imagine the enemy can see us, but we can't see the enemy. But really, in this case, we can't see it because it's a virus, a microscopic thing, a microbe, let's say. And I just think that there's that aspect to it, which is quite it's intellectualizing something very, very, very sad. So on the other side, there's the sadness of the life lost. And I've made this work. It's actually a video, but this is just a photograph of the video. The light goes on and off. So it's a painting and then an apron, my apron hung up on my lamp. So this still image from the video with the light on. It's called Imagining the Light Going Out, and it's about the tick-tock, you know, of the numbers clocking up of the dead, you know, all those who have contracted the illness, and that awful idea of human lives becoming numbers. I just think it's shocking. I never thought it would happen in my lifetime. And I just, I don't know, they have to be counted and registered, of course. So without coming down on either side, I just wanted to imagine what it would be like to know that you maybe were in hospital very ill and the light might go out on you, you know. Some people are told that they only have like 24 hours. Somehow they know whether a person will live or die, depending on, you know, the medical condition, the science behind it. So this piece is called Imagining the Light Going Out, and I've made many, many other pieces. I mean, I've been very, very productive during this period.
Yeah, that's a pretty powerful image. I'd like to see the video actually. If you'd like to share it with us after this Q&A. So the next question, just moving on a little bit from the pandemic, going back to the exhibition. What was your favourite piece on the exhibition? Headstone Manor.
Wow, this is my favourite piece. It's called "It's Not About Us," and it's my favourite piece because it's like a dream. So I'll say that again. There's a lot of noise in the background. This piece is my favourite because it worked like a dream in the space. It's mesh, and it fitted exactly this wooden wall, and the darkness of the panel on this one side shows the mesh and the paper clips, the gold paper clips, shows them up really well. And because of the way it looked as though it was made for the site. For that reason, it's my favourite piece in the show. It's a mixture of the setting and the piece together work. For me, best. Although a lot of pieces work really well, this is my favourite.
Yeah, that was the one displayed in our Great Hall. It's one of my favourite too. So, like I said, it was pretty powerful when it went up and fitted perfectly in those panels. Our next question is, what's one of your favourite memories of your career so far?
Oh, I think it's so clear in my mind in a way. The first one was the show. I think it's one of the first solo shows I had abroad. It was at the Institute of Contemporary Art in St. Louis, Missouri, in America in 1999. And, you know, I sort of felt I'd arrived. So, again, it was a museum show. And I just couldn't believe that such a beautiful museum was showing my works. I mean, it was just in a small area, and there was another artist showing large paintings, male artist. So just him and I was showing some sculptures, quite small sculptures. And that's a great memory. But then my next favourite memory was in 2015-16, when I was invited to put a show on in a massive museum, beautiful rooms in South Korea. It's called the Woyang Museum of Contemporary Art. And it had about 12 large galleries, massive galleries, and they were all dedicated to my work. This is just one of the galleries on the upper floor, but it went round and round this, you know, downstairs, around the corner. There were loads of massive galleries like this, beautifully lit. And that's another room with someone in it on the left. I painted it red like this. It's called Freud's Study Merge, and I put some of Sigmund's objects. But the room was so massive that the couch just on the other side, you can't see it. But yeah, that was a highlight in my career, that all my works, it was a retrospective, and all my works that to date were shipped over and put into categories. You know, that's the mesh room on the right. And there were different like headings for each room, and there was a lovely catalogue that went with it. I think that was one of the highlights. Yeah, it was such a big exhibition.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. I don't think I've seen pictures of that exhibition, so yeah, thanks for sharing that with us. Our final question is, what do you have planned in the future? Are you planning anything now, currently in lockdown, any exhibitions? And also, do you plan to do anything in Harrow again, either an exhibition or piece of work or a community activity, for example?
Well, do you know, I had, before the lockdown, I had so many exhibitions planned. I had something in Baku, in Brazil, in Cluj, which is in Romania. And I'm hoping that these will all, you know, come to fruition. But everything's been shelved. I've shown this image, you know, which is Old Cans, it's called, and that's my piece on the shelves in the Harrow, the Headstone Manor Museum there, in one of the rooms. And I think it's really how I feel about the future. I can't imagine, I can't envisage doing anything offline in the real world. Everything's gone online. So the Baku exhibition is they're starting to get together to put that online. So that's the Gazelle Art House. It's the gallery that represents me in London. So they were just about to ship my large painted object works to Baku in Azerbaijan for an exhibition there that was going to start in April. But now they're going to do something online, but we're still going to have it. Apparently everything we're still going to do, everything's just postponed. So the thing you were asking me about Harrow, this is what I'm doing. This is what's so exciting for me now. What you and I are doing, Stacey, this, you know, this show you've done in Pinterest, you've done a virtual show of my current exhibition in London. Well, with you, I call it London Harrow. I think I'm finding it really exciting what you've done on Pinterest with all the images. I just think it's fantastic to see somebody can see the show. And I think really interesting is that you've included some of the statements so people understand a little bit about the work and my intentions for it and my thoughts behind it. I think that is brilliant. Yeah, that's the most exciting thing. Gazelle have also done an Instagram interview, I think. But they're the two things, you know, that I'm doing in London. I'm not doing anything virtual abroad. I'm working with lots of ideas about this situation because I think it's a historic moment in time, and I feel very fired up by it. I'm making so many works with found objects, with video, with sculptures, with reliefs. Yeah, can't wait to show them somewhere sometime. Yeah, at the moment I'm just thinking about making them because I'm on one of those rolls. You go on a roll sometimes, and I'm really on a roll at the moment, so I'm going with it.
Yeah, so thank you for answering our questions. And just to say, as you mentioned, the Pinterest page, we'll post the link to the Pinterest page after our conversation on the screen, but people can access it now on our website. If you just type in headstonemanor.org, you'll be able to find Jane's exhibition virtually. So thank you, Jane, for everything, and we look forward to working with you post-lockdown, hopefully, when that finishes. Look forward to seeing you soon. So thank you.
Yes, Stacey.
Bye.